This is Shannon Briggs, former lineal world heavyweight champion, which he won against George Foreman. Great fighter. 60 wins out of 66 fights. He had asthma as a child. His mother was a heroin addict and his father wasn't in his life. Boy, did he overcome adversity. One of my heroes. Pt3, one of my favourite fighters. Who'll ever forget his fight with Iggy Abebusi? One of the best fights I've seen in the last 25 years. Big fan of Eamon. And he said to John Martin, it was John that got me all these photos. John said to him that Eamon backed £100 on you when you fought Lennox Lewis. And Pt3 laughed and just went good. Whatever he meant by that, I don't know. Danny Little Red Lopez, a big name in the 70s. I think he had 10 world title defences, won 9 by KO. Lost his world title to the legendary Salvador Sanchez in a war. What an exciting fighter he was. Let me see, James Lights Out Tony won the world middleweight title against Michael Nunn, knocked him out in 10 rounds. Did he win the super middleweight title? I know he was heavyweight champion. Tough, tenacious, brave fighter, granite chin, big heart. He was never stopped or put down in his career. I think he near 90 fights. Roy Jones put him down, but it was off balance. Shouldn't have been a count. He stumbled. Photo here of Aaron the Blade Barkley. The photo's not that clear because the sun is shining through that window in the background. But there he is with a copy of my book. Humbled. What a fighter. Kelly the Ghost Pavlik. 40 wins in 42 fights. Lineal world champion, middleweight champion. Out of his 40 wins, 36 by KO. His 2 losses were points decisions to Sergio Martinez and Bernard Hopkins. What a record. Michael Olajide. Michael had a great fight with Aaron Barkley. What a war. And he also took Tommy Turns a distance in a title fight and he gave it a good go. Great fighter. He actually said to John that he remembers me. He had a wee look through the book and looked at the photos. He says, I definitely remember him. Wow. But I doubt it. There's Merciless Ray Mercer holding a copy of my book. Olympic gold medalist, WBO heavyweight champion. Stunning knockout against Tommy Morrison. And he lost a very close decision to Lennox Lewis. A chin of granite also. Tim McGarry. Some carry on this week. Tim's a big Cliftonville supporter and I collared him into getting a photo in the book. Lovely man, lovely gentleman. Robbie Regan. Robbie's from Caerphilly in Wales. British champion, Lonsdale belt outright winner. A European champion and Wales's first 2-weight world champion. And he never lost his titles in the ring. What a legend. This is a tattoo a fella got done of my uncle Randy Monaghan. The guy came past bootleggers where I do the door and I called him over and I says, who's your tattoo of? And then I looked at it and I went, goodness gracious, that's my Uncle Renty. So it ends up we're second cousins and he calls occasionally to bootleggers and he always calls me cuz. What a great tattoo. With the legendary Jerry Story. Jerry's been to so many Olympics, World Championships, Europeans, Commonwealth Games. what that man doesn't know about boxing. This photo here is some memorabilia. This oil painting here was done by Josie O'Kane, and this photo here, this drawing was done by Jimmy Frame. These two sketches here were done by Darren McAuleys, and this here is a poster from a book, Fighting to Find Peace. And Paul Drain done me a wee action figure of myself. It's very, very, very good. Some photos up here. That's my father in his prime. Look at the arms in him. Bit of a poser, but if I had arms like that, I'd be posing too. And that's in our backyard there in Fairfield Street, I would say in the mid-70s. With two local legends, Paddy Maguire, British champion, and 1964 Tokyo Olympic representative Shawnee McCaffrey. Two great guys. That's a lotto winner, Peter Lavery, with me and my son Shay. Peter won 11 million on the lotto, former bus driver. But he's a very generous man. He's a philanthropist. He's bringing a lot of work to Belfast. Fair play to him. This photo here was a London team, under 19s, that boxed against the North West Counties in 1984. I boxed a guy that night. His first name began with C. It was just C. O'Brien on the programme. Could have been Chris, could have been Colin, could have been Kieran. I don't know, but I do know he gave me a great fight. I won a unanimous decision, but he was a really tough kid. And I tried to watch out for him after that, but he disappeared off the face of the earth. I was to fight Neil Foran that night. Neil had beat me a few months previously in the Henry Cooper's Golden Belt. But make no mistake about it, I'd have beat Neil. If that fight had went ahead, I'd have beat Neil that night, because I was a different guy than what I was a few months earlier when I lived in Manchester. And God rest Neil's soul. Lovely, lovely man. The photo here of my father and Alex Hurricane Higgins is in the photo. So it must have something to do with snooker. But there's my dad in the corner there on the left hand side. Me and Paul Hodgkinson in Los Angeles with Bernardo Panyango. Venezuelan world champion, defended his title against Frankie Duarte. We were in his camp. We were in Panyango's camp, along with Luis Spada. And after the fight, we went down to Panama with him. This guy here, I'm just getting a decision here against Bob Jenkins. This was in the ABA prelims, 1985. And I had fought earlier that night. I had two fights that night. I had beat Dave Murphy in a unanimous decision, given 4 standing counts, but I couldn't finish him off. I was a wee bit wild and a wee bit reckless, and I was a wee bit unhappy with my performance. But 2 hours later, when I fought Jenkins, I was much more measured, circumspect, used my jaw better, set him up, gave him a count. I went the distance, but I beat him well. I was much happier with that performance. He was gangly and awkward. And this guy here, Michael Second to None, is along with me and Paul in Los Angeles. In fact, one morning me and Paul was out running and we bumped into him 7 o'clock in the morning. He was with another running partner and we ran a couple of miles, and later on that day he invited us up to his room and he showed us his boxing cuttings and write-ups, and he wanted to know all about our stablemate Harold Graham, who was a #1 middleweight contender for Marvin Hagler's title. So there you go. Some interesting photos. Keep them coming, Eamon.